looking at the list, I know their resumes aren't as thick, but if you're telling me Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen are the 13th and 14th best coaches, and I watched what they did in year one, this is the greatest group of coaches in league history because Ben Johnson is outstanding. It's like when McVay went to the Rams, first year, they go from unwatchable to like double-digit wins. You're like, is McVay a top 4 or 5 coach? I think Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen today are top 10 coaches. I think they're unbelievable coaches.
Well, if you did, you kind of got to, there's 2 tiers, right? There's kind of the older group, the guys in their 60s, Andy, the Harbaugh bros. You would have Sean Payton. If you factored in age, the younger guys that maybe you thought you could get for 20 years, I think it's pretty clear. In some order, McVay, Kyle, McDonald, Ben Johnson. I think Liam Cohen, the Jags, I think they drafted in the top 5 for basically a decade straight. That's why it actually was an interesting job. They had some talent on the job, on the roster.
No, I think Cohen is. Last year, it's baby step league. You're not going to walk into the playoffs and beat Buffalo, even if the game's in Jacksonville. I love Trevor Lawrence. I was going to sell all my stock. And then last year, I'm like, look what a good coach can do. Go to Caleb last year and Caleb first year. It was like a different player. That's what a great coach can do.
I think one guy on this list is a little underrated because he's not a huge personality. He's a little understated, but I don't know. He played in the league for a while. Is D'Amico?
Oh,
his defense looks like the mid-2000s Ravens.
Yeah, if I ask you this, every GM in the league, privately, Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson, who do you think they take?
I think every Lions fan would make that trade right now, don't you think?
I like Campbell.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. This list is so insane. Like I don't get too involved with the I use lists as jumping off points to conversation cause this is the time of the year that the lists are king. Everyone has like top quarterback rankings and tiers and coaches and teams and wide receivers and it's like and everyone's got their own different lists and this and that. I don't think I've seen anything so ridiculous. I don't think I've seen a list. This list is so ridiculous. And it's not about just accomplishments. Right? We know that because Andy Reid's too. Okay. And Andy Reid is first of all, Andy Reid in general is clearly one. But we know it's not just your previous resume. So, we're talking about like right now, what are you doing right now like Middlecoff is talking about in terms of like age, who you're going to get for another like 20 years or so. I might even be looking at it through that lens either, necessarily, but I will look at youth through the lens of like do I feel like you're still bringing it, right? Do I still feel like you're ready to go? You right like Sean Payton's no longer calling plays now. 10 years ago, he's not giving up play calling. That's just not happening. So, the idea that Ben Johnson is below Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur, Dan Campbell, Sirianni, Vrabel, Harbaugh, Payton, McDonald, Shanahan, Andy like it's just so absurd. I literally could just sit here and just say, this is ridiculous. And I can just do it for the next 10 minutes. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. This is insane. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. Like what in what world is Dan Campbell and people be like and people still have the audacity? And this is something that I like go back and forth with Lions fans. I'm not anti-Dan Campbell. I'm not anti-Detroit Lions. But they're telling me that like Dan Campbell made Ben Johnson. When Ben Johnson left, I was like, yeah, I have concerns about offensive coordinator and blah blah blah. And people like, yeah, it's Dan Campbell's offense. He's the one that taught Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was nothing before Dan Campbell. And I was like, I think you guys are a little confused right now. I think you're a little confused right now. That's just insane to me. The 2 biggest up-and-coming coaches that I see are Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen. I know Mike McDonald's is elite defensively and D'Amico's elite defensively. Again, I would say that Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen are more in the up-and-coming list because they're the newest coaches, right? McDonald hasn't been coaching for a few years. D'Amico's been coaching for a few years too, I guess, right? 3 years. So, it's going to be a little bit different in terms of just like timeline, trajectory, but like if you had to pick a coach right now. Like let's just remove Andy Reid. Let's actually just remove Andy altogether because we know that his career is coming to a close, right? We know that. So, I think it's a little bit harder to kind of play this game of like who do you want to be your coach over the next 5, 10 years cause you're like, Andy's going to be retiring right now. For me it would be Sean McVay 1. Okay. And I'd want to go number 2 with Kyle Shanahan, but since I've seen so much out of Kyle Shanahan and again, if I was being conservative, right? If we're playing the game, you got to pick right now. If I was being conservative, I'd say, okay, I'm going to pick Shanahan because Shanahan has stood the test of time. I know he can run a team. I know he can adjust, adapt, work with different quarterback. Like you right? And that's his resume speaks volumes to that, multiple Super Bowls, etc. etc. I mean, getting to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, like all that stuff. But if I'm not playing that side of that game, the one where we were like, who could have the most upside? Who do I believe can really transform my team and put me in the absolute highest position to succeed? It's going to be Ben Johnson because he is also calling the plays. He is running the offense. It's his vision and I trust his ability to run the team, attention to detail, right? Making sure that you're actually running practices appropriately, meetings. People respect him. He can work with various quarterbacks. If Caleb Williams has to get cut, which I'm not saying he's obviously going to get cut, but I'm just saying, he gets cut and it's a mayday, what are we going to do? Like I trust that Ben Johnson can find ways through it, a backup quarterback or another rookie quarterback, drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round, making right like I believe in that flexibility. It's kind of listen, Shane Steichen's not even up here and that's actually pretty insane to me. That's insane to me. This is where again, this is why I don't like lists because I appreciate really all these coaches. And like again, I think Mike Macdonald is absolutely awesome and elite and deserves all the credit in the world. Super Bowl was unbelievable what he's done with the Seahawks, all that unbelly, so, it's like I'm like, but I'll take this coach in front of him. Like so, I don't love lists, right? I don't love to play that game, but I was going to say like I'm taking Shane Steichen over Matt LaFleur, I'm taking Shane Steichen over Jim Harbaugh right now. Right? But it's just like I think Harbaugh's elite and an awesome coach as well, but I'm looking at it through the lens of like I almost am always looking at it through a quarterback lens. I'm always looking at it, when I answer these types of questions or do these types of things, sometimes I have to be like, well, am I looking at it as if like I'm the quarterback right now? And who do I want to be my coach? Or am I looking at it through the lens of like I'm the owner? I'm a GM. Or like, where is it? Am I a fan right now? Who do I want? It's just like it also depends on like is your team a mess? If my team is an absolute mess and we are going nowhere. We are a disaster. We have no quarterback. The GM is a clown. The owner you're just like, what are we doing? Then yeah, I want a Harbaugh. Give me Harbaugh right now because he can transform my team. He can bring my team alive from nothing. If I have a really good quarterback, but he's like, in his 2nd or 3rd year and he hasn't quite hit his peak and we're trying to figure this out and we have a pretty good defense, but our offense is lacking a little bit. It's just like Harbaugh's not at the top of my list, right? Like Mike Macdonald's not at the top of my list, right? So, it's just like that. That's why these questions even when we're talking about coaches, it's like, well, what's the situation? Do you have a coach? Excuse me, do you have a coach? Do you have a quarterback? Do you need to draft a quarterback? Do you have a legitimate vet? like Dak, by time Mike McCarthy came was already in the league for like 5 or so years. Then when he got Shermer, he's already been in the league since 2017. Like he's been in the NFL for a long time. That's a big difference between coaching Dak and coaching Caleb in his second year, Drake May in his second year, you know. So, it's just like even when we're trying to play this game, it's like, well, what's the situation? Are you the Arizona Cardinals? 'Cause if you're the Arizona Cardinals right now, it's like, yeah, give me Harbaugh. I don't need an offensive genius. I'd love an offensive genius. I'd love the play caller. I'd love the guy who's a quarterback whisperer and all that. But it's like, you know what? I really need a coach who can actually transform my culture, who can actually run practice, who can actually guide my GM to actually draft the players that we need, right? Like I need everything right now. I don't need just a one singular thing. And so, you know, that matters. You know, that's why Andy Reid deserves even more credit for just getting the Kansas City Chiefs becoming an actual functional franchise even with Alex Smith before taking it to the next level obviously with Mahomes. And that's why when you have some coaches that I firmly believe can do both like the Sean McVays. And again, it's not to say that like a Ben Johnson can't do both. It's just, you know, I think we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen that quite yet. And same thing with Liam Cohen. But my mind will go more to the offensive lens as well. But if I'm looking at it through the lens of like my team is good. Right? My team is good, but I need to get to the next level. There's juice there. We got potential there, which was what the Chicago Bears were. Like we know, okay, there's some issues with the O-line and whatnot, but like you got a lot of pieces. You got a lot of weapons. We got the number 1 quarterback, right? Like we got the things. What do we need to get this to the next level? Like that's lens I'm looking at it through. And I'm like how are you not you're going to take Dan Campbell? Like no. Not at all. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Right? And so it's just like am I taking Mike Vrabel? Not doing that. Like so it's fascinating to me. I don't know how Ben Johnson in this moment of time can be below Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur, Dan Camp, I mean like those are the main names and you, snorts, no, they made the joke where they're like, who would you know, Lions fans would pick Dan Campbell over Ben Johnson. Or they would take Ben Johnson over Dan Campbell. And then that's absolutely true. And I think there's a lot of these other teams that have coaches ahead of them that I think they would take Ben Johnson right now. So I find that pretty absurd. Eagles fans would take Ben Johnson over Nick Sirianni. Eagles fans would take Shane Steichen over Nick Sirianni right now. I firmly believe that. That's why I made the joke where I said, if Sean Mannion, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, if he does great and Jalen looks better than ever in this offense is back on track and it's balling and now they're like, yeah, Sean Mannion, he's going to be interviewing for, you know, with so-and-so. You're going to have a lot of Eagles fans who are like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Fire Sirianni. Don't, learn your lesson, whatever it may be. Or pay him $100 to make him stay here. Like so it's just I don't know. Yeah. I do think there's also just such a versatility with offensive coaches that defensive coaches do lack. No doubt, again. Defense is needed. D'Amico, if we just look at the two defenses that were really special, the Texans and the Seahawks, and you're looking at the two defensive head coaches, they have quarterbacks that they had some question marks about, whether it's C.J. Stroud, Sam Darnold, and they truly are at the mercy of their coordinator in that regard. And if their coordinator works with especially those two types of quarterbacks, those coordinators are out the door like we literally saw with Clint Kubiak. I'd rather try to figure out, can we still make our defense pretty good with a brand new coordinator because now that coordinator got hired, right? Rather than trying to have to figure out, how do I make it work with my quarterback? It's just too important to me. I will always feel more comfortable with an offensive head coach and the one who's actually calling plays. I defend the walk-around coaches. I defend those conversations about that. I defend the defensive coaches. But at the end of the day, I feel best when I know my head coach is offense and the one who's calling the plays and the one who's responsible for having the real conversations with my quarterback. That is what's most important to me. And I look at it through that lens of if I am the owner, I am the GM, or if I am the fan, or if I am the quarterback, that is what I want. That is what matters most to me. I find that incredibly important. And we've seen just endless examples. Again, you say Harbaugh is the sixth best coach in the NFL right now. And again, I have to say, I love Harbaugh. But like he went out and had to hire Mike McDaniel. Sean McVay doesn't have to go out and hire Mike McDaniel. Ben Johnson doesn't have to go out and hire Mike McDaniel. Like that matters. That has to be factored in. Mike Vrabel did an awesome job. He has Tom Brady's offensive coordinator. Okay. Like that's who he has. If he just gets there and he has Kevin Patullo as his coordinator, does Drake May look as good right now? Do they get to the Super Bowl? I don't know, man. You know, again, literally Tom Brady's offensive coordinator has to count for something, no? And then we can play the game, well, he wasn't a good head coach because that's different. It's a different skill set. So. Yeah. I don't know. If I also look at it and I'll end here, if I look at it that I'm starting a franchise. I'm starting a franchise brand new. Like, hey, you ready? We're going to do this thing called the National Football League. We need coaches. Who do you want? Right? It's like if I am also now factoring in age, I'm factoring in everything, and it's just like, well, my top picks are going to be in no exact order. It'll be McVay, Andy, Shanahan, Ben Johnson, and Liam Cohen. Though those are the groups of guys that I think have the longest runway ahead of them. So again, I'm factoring in age and all of that. Their experience. And Andy even gets grandfathered in where even if he's in there for a short period of time, he's so great that if I'm starting this brand new, right? Like in this new league, even if I just got him for 3 years, he'll be, snorts, able to set up a foundation, right? He'll be able to be tell us all what we need to do. How do we run a team? How do we do this? What do we need? We need a quarterback and then a left tackle and then I trust that absolute wealth of experience just to get us back on track. And again, you can argue that a Harbaugh or a Payton kind of are worth that, too. But it's just Harbaugh and Payton are not going to have the runway that a Shanahan, McVay, Liam Cohen, and Ben Johnson have in this moment of time. And like I said, Andy's just too special, too elite that he gets that extra benefit of the doubt. And listen, I'm looking at Sean Payton, I'm you're no longer calling plays. I find that really interesting. And it's not I look at Sean Payton as this old man, but I'm you are I know how important coaching is to you. I know how much of a big coach you are, apparently the 5th best coach in the NFL. And now you gave up play calling, one of the main defining characteristics of who you are as a coach. And he was saying apparently he doesn't get things as fast and can't get it out there as fast. And I'm just okay, that's interesting. I'm that's what does that mean right now? Again, Harbaugh needed a Mike McDaniel. It's what? How do you reconcile that? So my long-winded way of saying having Ben Johnson this low is insane. Just his ability to get the run game going is pure perfection. I made that video after the Bears beat the Cowboys. And I was just the run game alone was just literal poetry in motion. I mean it was absolute perfection what we saw. And I remember sometimes some fans were kind of pushed back on that. So then I decided to double down on it. I'm like, alright, well, now we're going through some film. And it was like, we're going through what Ben Johnson just did from the run game perspective and what they did. And I used Coach Dan Casey and some of his clips and some of his thoughts. And it was just like, look at this. Like this is just absolute perfection. And that's just the run game. That's just the run game alone. Right? A lot of these other coaches on this list are just not bringing that. And that's just one part of the one side of the ball and one aspect of that side of the ball. So Ben Johnson 13th, that's criminal. That's absolutely criminal. But then I'll end here. I said I'll end here. But I'll definitely end here. Again, love Kevin O'Connell. Love D'Amico. Love Matt LaFleur. Like I think so highly of these coaches. And if I truly had to make a list, I genuinely struggle to do it. I really would. And there's certain coaches like even though I believe in Ben Johnson more, I would rather play for Kevin O'Connell. Again, I'm looking at it through the quarterback lens now. Like I'd rather Kevin O'Connell be my coach than Ben Johnson just because of how I would feel more comfortable and connect more. So like again, this conversation is layered from all the different ways that you can look at it through. But the one even though I'd struggle with the actual rankings itself, there's just in no universe that Ben Johnson's the 13th coach. And I don't want to hear like, well, you've only been a head coach for 1 year and he hasn't won a Super Bowl and so has won a Super Bowl and so has been to a Super Bowl and so. It's like, I get all that. I'm not saying who had a better. This is the same conversation that we always have with like Mahomes and Lamar. I'm like, we're not having conversations of who has a greater legacy, who has the better resume. Because again, if we were Andy Reid would obviously be ahead of Sean McVay. He's clearly not. Therefore, that's a Mike McDonald won a Super Bowl, Kyle Shanahan didn't. Okay. And yet Kyle Shanahan so we know it's not based on just that. We know that. So you have to look beyond just the bottom line accomplishments. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Ben Johnson being the 13th best coach according to NBC Sports? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.